The great ones sacrificed themselves so others might live. We thought ourselves their successors, but failed to honor their sacrifice and proved ourselves unworthy. We make this new home where our ancient rivals once lived and hope to live up to the examples of those that came before us. Ulgas, after leading her people to the old giant capital. Takoni Futuna is a hidden land protected by powerful magics and vigilant warriors, once the center of the giant domain, now home to the Dragonborn and Dragon-kin who fled from Kohold after the uprising. After the cataclysm, there was a Tower of Babel situation where many of the people of the domain scattered and grouped themselves with the others of their species, many of them eventually reunifying in the conclave. But the old capital and the region around it remain depopulated. No one is quite sure why. Some speculate the structures left behind by the giants were useless in the mini ice age that followed the cataclysm, and it killed those who remained. Some speak of powerful wards placed on the area that couldn't be undone without a giant. More than one legend speaks of hauntings. All or none of these may be true. Regardless of the reason why, the fact that they were largely empty meant these lands were perfect for the refugees of Holdfast. Steeped in the knowledge of the old ways, these wandering refugees made a new home in the ruins of their ancient rival's capital. After re-establishing themselves and starting to thrive, some who still viewed themselves as the rightful heirs of the dragons wanted to take back what was once theirs, starting with Holdfast, or as it was now known, Kohold. Others who found that this was the same attitude that led to their exodus in the first place wanted to take a more inward-looking path. The rival philosophies would eventually lead to a civil war. While those in favor of reclaiming past glories were the smaller group, they were more militarized and were able to put up a strong fight. Eventually, as the other side organized, their numbers would win out and allow them to be victorious. Once again devastated by a war between neighbors, they decided to confront their past sins and recognized that they were the cause of their own problems and decided to isolate themselves until they were ready to be a part of Ethokar and not the whole. Delving deep into the ruins of the giants, they combined the knowledge they found there with the knowledge they preserved from the Dragon Empire, and again set out to rebuild. They used their knowledge to protect themselves from prying eyes and develop a new society. Only the elves now can rival them for pure magical knowledge, but while the elves engage with the world and have a reputation for arrogance, the population here is hidden and humble. While they build great works, it is not for the glory of a lord, but for the betterment of society. Because of the isolation, Takoni Futuna is made up almost entirely of Dragonborn and Dragon-kin. And while they remain hidden, legends of a great magical land still, of course, occasionally seep out. And this is what the Justos are looking for in their colonies in the frontier lands, and why they've maintained them. Whether they know the Dragon-kin or not are there is somewhat questionable, but they know or are seeking knowledge of a lost magical kingdom, things like that. Very much of a fountain of youth sort of story. The hidden and advanced nature of this area also certainly harkens to Wakanda in other pop culture, very advanced and hidden. But I also mention a lot that the Dragon-kin are here. I've mentioned them a couple in other videos. The Dragon-kin were a 3rd edition, or maybe 3.5, but 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons creature, very much like Dragonborn. They were a monster. They weren't a playable race, but they tended to be larger than Dragonborn, and they had wings but couldn't breathe fire. So as far as mechanically goes, they would basically be a variant of Dragonborn, and kind of like how some tieflings can have wings instead of other magical abilities, they would have wings instead of like the breath weapon or something like that.